Good morning, John Sautter from the Purdue Alumni Association, together with April Holleiter behind the camera and our entire production team. And once again, it's Facebook Live. As we hear the bells chiming from the bell tower up on campus, that's our cue that we need to get online and bring you another session. Today we're coming to you from the west side of campus. Behind me is Wiley Hall. We're going to talk about the history of Wiley Hall a little bit, and the namesake for Wiley Hall, and a spot near and dear to many of you, I suspect. And then we're going to make our way in this direction, and we're going to go by the Wiley Dining Court, which is right behind April. You'll see more of that in a second. And then we're going to go across the street to the beautiful new co-rec facility that's just been enhanced within the last couple of years. Very, very popular spot for students. So again, we're trying to combine a little bit of the history, a little bit of the well-traveled paths, where a lot of you have spent some of your time when you were a Purdue student, hoping to revive some of those memories and maybe bring you back to campus, have you join the Alumni Association, and do all those things you need to do as an alumni. So here we go. Behind me is Wiley Hall, originally called H3. Our history is that back in the late 40s, early 50s, the wars have ended. Fred Hovde and R.B. Stewart, they need a lot of housing quickly. And as a matter of fact, this used to be the location of something called the Chippewa. Chippewa, the Seneca, and the Mohonk were temporary barracks that were brought in from Grissom Air Force Base. And so the Chippewa units were located here. In fact, I have a picture of the Chippewa units right here. You can see the water facilities are down here. Oops, 3rd Street right here. This is Chippewa, and this is where Wiley Hall is located today. Wiley Hall was H3, so it was going to be the 3rd unit built of the 8 units. We had H1 all the way up to H8. It's H3. H3 originally was for men. In fact, as Meredith Hall, X Hall closed just down the street, the men in X Hall moved over here to be a part of H3, and it was filled with men for many years. Now it has gone co-ed. It's been co-ed for about the last 6 or 7 years, with men on one side and women on the other side of the building. I got to add that it's near and dear to me. My first 2 years at Purdue University were right here in Wiley Hall with Lanny Wilson as the manager. A good time. Within Wiley Hall, they had a grill, kind of a snack shop, known as the Pot and Derby. And the Pot and Derby has its own Purdue history, of course, where the freshmen would wear the pots and the seniors the derbies and those sorts of things. Now it's a vending lounge, I believe. The name of the student organization here was the Excalibur Club. Excalibur, whoever pulls the sword from the stone is rightfully king, that sort of thing. So a lot of tradition within H3 and Wiley Hall. Wiley Hall houses around 750 students. Very popular because of its location these days. It's one of our unair-conditioned facilities, which this time of the year, in fact, we're having a heat wave these days on campus, and so the fans are back out, but we have to remember that the students who lived there from 1958 on, when it opened, didn't have air conditioning either, so somehow they survived, and so actually our students will do quite well also. Wiley Hall is named for Harvey Washington Wiley. Harvey Washington Wiley was a food chemist hired by Abraham Shortridge, our second president. And as the university opened in 1874 and he started hiring faculty, he went after Harvey Washington Wiley, highly regarded as a food chemist and a physician, just a real self-starter that we'd call him today in terms of getting involved with students on campus. He was actually here a total of 9 years or so. A rather interesting fellow, one of the most interesting faculty members in the history of the university, someone once said, because not only was he a good professor, got along well with the students, but he also initiated our ROTC program, probably called military science back then, but started teaching some of those classes. He coached our first baseball team on campus also, but probably his most notoriety, perhaps one of two things. One was that he lived in Lafayette and would, near the end of his career here, he started riding a high-wheel bicycle across the bridge to campus into the into his classroom. And of course, the people would stare at him, and he would scare a lot of the horses along the way, along the dirt roads that he was riding. And this was brought to the attention of the trustees, and they considered it a grave offense. He wasn't acting with the proper decorum, and they were ready to fire Harvey Washington Wiley. And so actually he has his own biography written about him. He said it's such an interesting character. But he did leave here. He actually went from here to Washington, D.C., and is regarded as the father of the Pure Food and Drug Act. So a lot of the pure food and drug regulations that we have these days relative to storage of food, sanitation of food, all those sorts of things, actually started with Harvey Washington Wiley, right here from the Purdue campus, the namesake for this building. Now we're going to start making our way in this direction. We got some real life students going to class. Hello. We're passing by the Wiley Dining Court, and stick with us. We may lose connection here as we did our test earlier. But we're going by the Wiley Dining Court. So we're going from the historical to a little more modern. This facility opened up in around 2008. It's one of our 5 dining courts that we have on campus. It's seats about 550 students or so. And this particular dining court is one of the more popular because it features Brazilian barbecue, the Brazilian barbecue concept, which is a churrascaria, which is rotisseries. It has more rotisseries than any campus food service in the entire country, we're told. And what it does is provide lots of kinds of meat, so lots of protein, all unlimited. So it might serve pork, but it's 3 different ways of pork, or it might have steak and 2 or 3 different varieties of that available. But then it also has pasta made to order. It offers pizza. It offers comfort food, so the meatloaf and mashed potatoes and all those things, as well as a full salad bar. But it also has cereal, all the cereal you might want to eat. Even has fresh made waffles for all the meals also. So really catering, as you can tell, really catering to students and their likes. Very popular, particularly because of the interior design and architecture. There's a minimum of stainless steel, but there's a lot of stained wood. This has kind of a lodge feel to it as you walk in, with high ceilings and beams and that sort of thing. You can sit in several different areas and get several different feels. Some of the areas are carpeted, some are not. One of the corners actually has TV monitors and screens, kind of a sports bar feel to it, with TV screens on. On the other side, there's a reservable dining room that seats about 100 students, named the William Berner Dining Room. Bill Berner was the manager, actually, of Wiley Hall for many years, involved with my training early on in central administration, and just a great guy to be on the staff and be around. And we named one of the dining rooms for him. So this is one of our 5 dining courts, has its own chef, and serves thousands of meals. About 4,000 folks come through here, I suspect, on a daily basis for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Very popular spot, one of the 5. I'm going to start walking across the street. This is one of our 5 dining courts. I think we've talked a little bit about the Ford Dining Court. Is near the stadium. Many of you have probably seen that. It's a 2-story facility. It features pizza, stone hearth pizza ovens. Windsor Hall off to the back, maybe over my shoulder here. It also has its own dining court, and they feature international cuisine, as well as focusing on vegetarian and vegan style food. And then Earhart Hall has a Mongolian grill for stir fry. Hillenbrand Hall has make your own quesadillas. But all places, of course, offer hamburgers and the basics, and salad bars and things that we know that the students like. In future Facebook Lives, we may actually do some views, have some views and some discussions of the interiors of some of those facilities. Also behind me here is the Kroc Leadership Building. This is named for Keith Kroc. Chaired our Board of Trustees for quite a few years, and it's where a lot of our student organizations are located. This entire area where we just came from actually used to be known as Vaughter Field, where some of you might have played mud volleyball. We actually had tennis courts in the far corner. As the university continued to have 10 minutes between classes, and we need students to be able to live close to get to class and back and forth for their meals. The university has gone to an infill concept. And the infill concept is pedestrian friendly, but unfortunately eliminates a lot of the green space along the way. But this is all part of that particular concept. Now we're going to cross the street if we don't get run over. This is live, so we don't quite know exactly what we're always going to find. We hope these trucks stop for us here. Morning. I can tell you it's October 3rd, and so next week is fall break on campus. So all the students are eagerly anticipating fall break next Monday and Tuesday. We're getting ready to enter the Córdova Recreational Center. This facility was originally built in 1957, and received a lot of awards in its days for having so many different athletic activities available for students that was not really connected to athletics. Most facilities like this in the country are connected somehow to intercollegiate athletics, and they have priority to use of the space and that sort of thing. At Purdue, they wanted to separate the two to make sure the students had access to this, and so they did. And so, opened in '57, it was actually added on to in the '80s, added on to again in the year 2000. But then after that, they really needed to have a significant expansion. It's hard to fund facilities like these with state revenue, and so the students took it upon themselves and had a referendum. They actually had in one of the student body elections, one of the questions on the ballot was, would you mind paying more fees to improve the co-rec facility, knowing that you as a voting student then wouldn't even be able to enjoy it, but it'd be years later that it would be available. And the students overwhelmingly supported it. And so it was paid, the facility addition, to the tune of about $100 million, was actually paid by student fees to use the facility. And it is gorgeous. It is one of the best health clubs on campus and in town. And actually anybody has access to use it for a variety of fees, of course. It has about 9,000 students a day who will come through this facility. It's state-of-the-art. It's actually used now as a part of our recruiting process. When you get a day on campus or you get a Purdue preview day, they're going to talk about the co-rec and probably show it to you. It has 2 climbing walls, a 55-foot and a 12-foot climbing wall. It has 2 running tracks available in it. It is connected to the Morgan Burke Aquatic Center, so it has a fully equipped swimming pool. And of course the Aquatic Center is state-of-the-art, been used for Big Ten championships and NCAA tournaments, you know, that sort of thing. It has over 35 or so courts for handball, racquetball, all the different racket kind of sports, squash, you know, is available there also. And then it has close to 300 cardiovascular machines. So these are treadmills and stationary bikes, recumbent bikes, and all those types of facilities. A huge free weight area down on the main floor within the facility. Has its own wellness and fitness center. Students can actually have a personal trainer here, as well as get a massage after a tough workout. And it actually has a test kitchen. They actually teach courses in cooking here, teaching the students how to prepare food better for themselves and that sort of thing. So that the full gamut is available within our co-rec facility. Just a wonderful facility that's available for students, and well used. And it's located out in the housing area, which is good from an administrator's point of view. When I kind of tires the students out in the evening, you know, so it won't be quite as rambunctious as they might be as they go back to their different housing units. It has a huge intramural program. It supports over 40 different sports. And so depending on what sport you might be interested in, there's going to be a team and there'll be a tournament in that particular sport. And some of their best club sports these days, I would have to say, include men's and women's rugby, men's and women's lacrosse. Perhaps the top club sport now is the crew team. Your crew team actually has its own facility down on the Wabash. It has quite a few shells, has over 100 folks involved in that particular club, and they row in regattas all around the country. They go to Philadelphia to the Dad Vale Regatta, they go west out to San Diego, and it really attracts the students who might not have been involved in other kinds of sports. They really are attracted to the crew team. So some great facilities. When to make our way inside, we think this is going to work, but we're not 100% sure. We want to walk inside and maybe show you one of the 55-foot climbing walls that they have on the inside of the facility. So we're going to try to get inside the facility.
Sorry.
No,
Let it go. You're on the air. We're inside the facility now, and we're going to go right to the rail. So we're inside the co-rec now. It looks like they have some student registrations for a career fair. Well, we want to have a look at the 55-foot climbing wall that's right in front of us. So you'll be able to see. Chances are, if you've been doing this prior to coming to Purdue, you can enhance that skill, but a lot of folks come in and you have to take some safety sessions and learn how to hang on to the ropes and those sorts of things. But all part of the co-rec, not the co-rec that you might have known when you were here as a student, but certainly a popular place these days. So we hope this gives you a feel for what the campus looks like these days, and we hope this will encourage you to come back and maybe look around for yourself. And so for April, John Sautter, we're saying see you next week on Facebook Live. Hail Purdue.